Hi guys, welcome to a new video. Today in the workshop we're going to be unboxing and taking a first look at a new tool that I've just acquired. And also later on in the video I'm going to be talking about a few changes that I've made in the workshop and some changes that I'm intending to make in the workshop and why I'm making the changes that I'm making. So stick around for that. But coming up first is the new tool review. Right, as you can see, I went for the Hikoki 8.5-inch mitre saw. Now, I would have loved the 10-inch 18-volt version, the model that Keith Brown has. But that was 3 times the price of this. I paid £190 for this. There is a reason why I decided to buy this model over some of the more powerful models such as the Evolution mitre saws, but I'll explain that later on in the video. For now I'm gonna get it out of the box and let's see what's inside. Spanner, dust bag, it's like the adjustment handle, workpiece clamp, and the bit you've all been waiting for, before we take a up close and personal look at the saw, I'm just going to run through a few specs. Excuse me. Now, when I was looking at YouTube and trying to find reviews on this particular model, this is the latest model that Hikoki have come out with on the 8.5-inch sliding mitre saw. The only difference being this version has got the fixed rails, which means it doesn't require the distance behind the saw for the sliding mechanism, which is one of the main reasons I went for this model in the end. But there was loads of reviews on YouTube for the 12-inch models, the 10-inch models, both like 18 volt, 36 volt, multi-volt, whatever you want to call it, versions of this saw. There was 8.5-inch reviews on the older models with the normal slide mechanism, but I couldn't find one review of this particular model, which is their latest 8.5-inch model. So I hope that this review is going to help people to decide whether or not this saw would be right for them. Obviously I would have liked the bigger model, but one, it costs 3 times as much as this, and two, obviously I've only got a tiny workshop, so I had an 8-inch saw before, and I've never kind of had trouble with that not being big enough, so obviously 8.5 inch is going to be fine for my workshop, and with it being the fixed rails, it takes up a lot less room, which is good. So blade size is 260 millimeters. Bore size is 30mm. The blades will be easier to find. Now there's two versions of this saw in the UK. You've got the 110 volt version, which puts out 1030 watts of power, and the 230 volt version, which is what this is, that is 1100 watts. Now, in comparison to some of the other saws I was looking at, for example, some of the Evolution mitre saws, the power seems to be quite low, considering some of the saws that I was looking at in the Evolution range were about 2000 watts. But being that none of those had the fixed rails, this was kind of why I took a punt on this one, because I wanted a slightly smaller footprint. So, and as I couldn't find any other reviews on YouTube for this model, I thought, well, it might be of use to some people, so I kind of took a chance on it. I think the max width of cut is 305 and the max height is 65mm, so it's not bad for a 8-inch saw. So you don't need me to tell you that whenever you get a new tool, before first use, you need to check to make sure it's set up properly, especially something like a mitre saw that's got different angles. So put it in the 0 position, use a square, and that looks blooming spot on to me. And then obviously move the table right and left and check to make sure it's cut and square. So as far as assembly goes on the saw, there's not actually a lot to put on. First thing, the handle just slots in there, and then there's a Phillips screw which holds that in place, and this isn't actually a handle that screws or twists rather. On the right hand side, on the back of the fence, it's got this little bit, and that is basically where the wrench slots into, so you don't lose it. You've got the clamp, which basically you've got this little knob that you wind out, and then that just sits in there, and if you look, you've got a slight groove around it. When you drop it in and tighten that in, it basically stops you from lifting it out. And then obviously to adjust it, you twist this and tighten your workpiece in position. The only other bit that you need to fit on is this little support, which if you flip the saw over, you see these two holes, and that basically just screws into the two holes on the base of the saw. And if you look, you can see where the preset angles are. Now the dust port is here, and the dust bag basically just slots on like so, and they say to have it positioned on the right hand side of the saw so it doesn't interfere with the sliding mechanism. So the saw actually comes all locked down so it doesn't move obviously when it's being transported. So basically, to unlock the sliding mechanism, you've just got a knob here that you twist, and that will allow you to slide the mechanism. Then round this side, you've got a lever here, and you basically just pull that out, and that will allow the saw to lift up. So now you've got like the full range of motion. And on first impressions it slides really well. So as you can see, you've got the gauge here, and you've got all the different, like 0 degrees, 15, you've got the 22.5, 30, 31.6, 45, and they're basically pre-set, or you can go anywhere in between. So this lever here, when it's in the down position, that locks all this in place. So to obviously change the angle, you've got to release this, and then you've got this little lever here. Now obviously lift that up and you can basically slide it wherever you want to set it up to, and if you let go of this lever, it will automatically fall in the set increments. So it's 0, 15, 22.5, 31.6 and 45. Obviously, if you don't want it to drop into the preset angles, you just hold that up, and that allows you to slide freely between the different positions. The fence on the left side is adjustable, and there's a little knob at the back. You loosen that and this basically slides right out, and then obviously tighten it up, just do the knob up, and once it's tightened it is fairly secure. There is a tight little bit of movement, but nothing major. And obviously if you're doing an angled cut, you don't want it pushed all the way in, because you'll end up chopping it, which I've done on my other saw. So on both sides of the table you've got these extension wings. You just loosen the little knob at the front and these slide out. In repeatable cuts you've got these little levers that lift up, and they'll act as a stop for the workpiece, and you can make repeatable cuts. Now in the specifications for this saw, nowhere does it mention anything about the depth stop for trench cuts, or if you want to make like half lap joints and that. So obviously at the moment the saw would go all the way down to its lowest position, but if you want to make like a trench cut and you want to score a workpiece or whatever, this little lever here, you twist that round, and then you've got this little knob up here that you just kind of adjust to whatever depth you want, and then that basically will only allow your blade to lower to a certain point, and then you can make kind of half lap joints or whatever. But it doesn't say anything about that in the information online for this saw, so that's definitely worth pointing that out. So to tilt the blade, it's just got this little knob on the back that you just loosen off by turning anti-clockwise, and that basically allows you to angle the saw. So when you've got your saw in the upright position, if you find it's not quite sitting at 90 degrees to the blade, you'll see you've got this little like bolt with a nut on it, and you basically loosen the lower nut, turn this in or out depending on whether you which way you want to adjust it, and that allows you to fine tune the to get it 90 degrees to the blade. And it's the same when you tilt it at 45 degrees. You've got the little bolt with the locking nut underneath. When you angle the saw to 45 degrees, if you need to make any slight adjustments, you either wind it in or back it out, depending which way you need to move it, and that way you can set it up so it's at the right angle. Back on the top you've got a little carrying handle. This is made out of strong plastic, and you've got the dust extraction port, which I would say is about 2.5 inches thereabouts. So as well as having the adjustments for like 90, 45, you've also got adjustment bolts on the fence, and you've got 2 this side and 2 the other side, and basically if you loosen them, that will allow you to kind of move the fence. Right, so the only other thing to adjust is the laser. Now, to adjust the laser, you see this little lump on the side. Don't do what I did. I'm not sure how well you're going to see that. See how tiny that is? It's like a little plastic pin, and you got one there and you got one the other side. You basically have to pull them out and then remove that plastic cover. And I didn't realise they were going to fly out, and I actually lost one of these little pins across the workshop and then spent 20 minutes trying to find it again. So don't do what I did. But yeah, once you've removed that, you've then got 4 of these little grub screws, and you've got 2 this side, 2 the other side. Why they've made it so awkward, we'll never know, but remove all 4 of those, 2 from either side, and then basically you just make micro adjustments by turning this actual round where the bit where the light is. You just turn it either way. Don't turn it any more than 1/4 of a turn because you'll damage the laser. That's what it says in the instructions. Right, so for video purposes, I've squared some lines across this piece of MDF, and I've adjusted the laser so you can see how far out it is. And then it's just a case of twisting that bit where the light is very slowly. See if I can do it so you can see the laser actually moving, see? And I'm barely moving that. And then you just obviously adjust it, keep checking it up against the line. At the moment it's set up so it's on the left hand side of the cut line, which is the way they state they've set it up. I forgot to mention that when you're adjusting it, if you move it, push it to the right, it'll put it the right hand side of the cut line, and if you push it to the left, then it'll go to the left hand side of the cut line. I forgot to mention this switch here is for the laser on and off. You can also see that the brushes are easy to get to if you need to replace those. You don't get any spare brushes with the saw, but hopefully they should last a long time. Right, let's see how it sounds. Right, so I've got a scrap of MDF. I've got a 4x2, bit of plywood, so I'm just going to make a few cuts and see how it cuts. Well, considering it's a stock blade, not too bad. Mechanism slides really well. Try a little bit of plywood. Last but no means least, bit of 4x2. Nice clean cut. Went through no problems, and I haven't finished setting it up yet. That's not too bad at all, really, as is. Can't really see that, but take my word for it. Right, so I've got this mitre saw pushed right up to the wall, and the distance to the front of this handle is, I would say, about 28.5 inches, or around about 72.5 centimetres. So 28.5 inches, 72.5 centimetres. And that is without the dust extraction fitted on the back. If I just show you something, if you look inside the bag, you've got like this solid plastic piece, and I suppose that's in there to kind of keep the bag at the right angle. So when you put this on the back, and you push it as far back as it will allow you, which is about there, it then 31 inches. So with the dust bag on, it goes from 28.5 inches to 31 inches. Right, so my old saw with the old style sliding rails out the back, the overall distance from back to the front of this handle is 36 inches. So if we take this, say, with the dust bag on it, at 31 inches, that means there's basically 5 inches less footprint between the new saw with the fixed rails and my old mitre saw. Now, it might not seem like a lot, but in a small workshop, 5 inches can make a big difference. So, right, another thing that I've been given is this 35 litre M-class Fane dust extractor. Wet and dry, it's M-class, which is the best filter you can get. The hose on it is absolutely brilliant, and the different adapters that come with it fit all my tools apart from the thickness planer, but obviously you'd be better off with a separate vacuum on that anyway. And it's also got power takeoff, so anything lower than 1750 watts I can plug straight into this outlet, and it will automatically power up the vacuum when I activate the tool, and as soon as I turn the tool off, it'll run on for a few seconds and turn the hoover off. So as I was given this, I couldn't refuse it, and the only problem there is with this, it's not really a problem, is the fact that it's 110. So my workshop runs off a 240, so it means I've got to get a 110 transformer to use this, but I'm not worried about that. Considering the M-class versions of this retail for about 600 odd quid. They do cheaper versions that aren't, I think they're only L-class, not 100% sure on that, but they're not M-class and they retail for about 350. The M-class ones retail at about 600 plus, so over the moon that I was given this. So as soon as I get the transformer, I will be using this. Now regarding the changes I'm going to be making to the workshop, when I originally built the workshop, the way I was kind of thinking was I didn't want everything out on show and getting covered in dust, so I wanted to build some cabinets to keep things in. Thought it was a good idea at first, but over the last year that I've been using this space, it's done nothing but wind me up, having to kind of juggle things around in the cupboards and trying to get things out and then having to put them all away. That is why I've been making all the French cleat tool holders recently, because I've decided I'm going to remove all these cupboards and this lower unit. I originally thought I'd be using this workbench more and like my saw table, but I haven't really used that at all, and it just becomes a dumping ground for all the bits and pieces and offcuts and whatever other junk I end up throwing up there. So this is all going to be ripped out. Now I still want cupboards, but just not as many. But let me turn the camera around and I'll show you what I'm planning. Right, so up there on the wall, you can see the shelf I had with all my scraps of wood on. I've taken that down, and over in the corner next to the mitre station, I've removed all the pallet wood and everything that I was storing in here, and all my wood is now in our other shed. I spent 2 days this week sorting all that out so I can put all my wood in there. Because this is only a small workshop, any space that's taken up with like wood and whatever eats into the working space and that I've got in this small workshop. So at first I thought that was a good idea, but I've since then decided that the wood should be kept separate. So the mitre station is going to be built on this wall, and I'm going to build some drawers and a couple of cupboards into the mitre station. So rather than having this space kind of taken up with this separate mitre cabinet, and then the other cupboards at the end of the workshop, I'm going to incorporate the two together. So basically all this space which is kind of unused now will be taken up with like drawer space, the mitre station, and that way I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and I think that would be a better use of space. So that is one thing I'm changing, and that is the reason why I also went for this, like the Hikoki mitre saw, because of the fixed rails and the fact that it requires less space behind the saw. Not a lot, but 5 inches or more than that if I don't use the bag. So that will make a difference as well to the size of the mitre station itself. So I'm also going to be changing this table that I built for my DeWalt 7491 table saw. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with this. I absolutely love it, and the fact that it gives you a wider surface area and the outfeed for cutting larger pieces, that's great, love it. It makes it a lot easier and a lot safer. But because I don't use the workbench at the end of my workshop like I thought I would, I tend to do all my stuff on this part of this bench, and it's not that big. I mean, this is only 2 foot, plus obviously the whole thing is just short of a table and incorporate some storage underneath, because obviously at the moment all this is kind of wasted space. So I want to kind of incorporate a bit of storage underneath. I still want to be able to use this table as like an outfeed for this, but obviously I want a slightly bigger surface to kind of assemble projects and things like that. So that's another thing I'm going to be changing in the future. And I'm also going to be incorporating some sort of like putting an extension lead with some sockets on the table, and that way I'm not kind of stretching leads from the outside of the workshop to the area where I'm working. So right guys, hope you enjoyed that review of the Hikoki 8.5 inch sliding mitre saw. If I missed anything out or you've got any questions, comment below and I'll do my best to reply. I want to thank all my usual subscribers for supporting the channel and watching the videos. If you're a new subscriber to the channel, I appreciate you becoming a subscriber and joining the channel. If you're watching this video for the first time or passing through, before you leave, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I do weekly woodworking videos, I do workshop related organisation type videos, and I also do tool reviews. So if that's your sort of thing, hit the subscribe button, and if you tap the little bell icon, you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. So that's it for now. Until the next video, stay safe and you'll see me in the next video. Cheers for watching guys.